This is not a sponsored video. Everything you see in this video was purchased with my own money. Everything is not amazing. I do bad reviews too. In my last video, I talked about the Shapton Kuromaku 1000 grit ceramic whetstone, and that it was probably the best value sharpening stone on the market. And a ton of you agreed with me. Like everybody. Now, I had already bought the 5000 grit, but needed something in between the 5000 and the 1000 for the 5000 to be more effective. The Shaptons are very accurately graded and designed to be used in order, and my findings definitely support that. You really don't want to skip grits with these stones, so I added the 2000 grit to the collection. So let's take a quick look at the scratch patterns of each one of these stones, the 1000 grit, the 2000 grit, and the 5000 grit, up close and see what they look like. Now, the first order of business was to find a dull knife. Oh, that's pretty sharp. Which proved to be challenging since I like the Kuromaku 1000 grit so much, I pretty much sharpened everything and anything in my current knife collection. So I had to resort to, I always hate to do this, but it's for YouTube. All right, stall now. Now the knife I'm using is the Spyderco Manix 2 in S110V. It's a very difficult steel to sharpen if you've ever sharpened S110V, but as you'll see in this video, these stones blaze through it no problem. The Kuromaku 1000 took approximately 4 minutes to bring the S110V back to paper cutting sharp. I mean, that's right off the stone, S110V. Now, for most of my personal sharpening needs, this stone, the 1000 grit, and a 6 micron strop is all that I'll ever use in my everyday sharpening. And with a price of $41, I still can't believe it's that cheap, by the way. It's an absolute amazing value. Get one before the price goes up, because eventually they will go up, just like everything else has. Now, here's a scratch pattern for the 1000 grit. And you can see by the scratch pattern how well this particular stone cuts. Next, it's on to the 2000 grit. Again, I spent about 4 minutes on this stone. And here's the scratch pattern for the 2000 grit. This stone cuts very nicely as well. It's still a cutting stone. You can still actively feel material being removed from the knife. Now, at this point, when we're looking at these edges up close, it starts to become fairly difficult to get good images of these blades up close, since they start to become very reflective. Imagine trying to take a picture of a mirror and the difficulties surrounding getting a close-up image of a mirror. And you can start to understand why it's difficult to photograph knife edges up close that are very reflective. Now on to the 5000. I describe this stone as a pure polishing stone. There's very little cut feel to this stone. It feels like a polishing stone. There's not a ton of feedback, it's all polish. I spent about 4 minutes here as well, but we're going to touch back on this in a second. And here's what that edge looks like. If you've ever done macro photography, you'll know that it is not easy in the first place, and the fact that this is almost a completely reflective surface under normal conditions makes this even more difficult to get on camera. Now, you may be thinking that doesn't look like a polished edge. Well, so I had to take this outside and get this on camera because it just wasn't showing up with enough light in there. But that's the edge that we just saw on camera. It looks like it's a complete mirror polish. Now, as you look at this 5000 grit edge up close, you may see some deep scratches that were left in there. And I'm here to tell you that you cannot see those scratches with the naked eye. The only time, or the only way that I saw these deep scratches was after I got it off the camera and blew it up on the computer. And again, in real life, you cannot see these scratches. But it does tell me that the approximate 4 minutes that I spent on the 5000 grit polishing the edge wasn't enough, and I could have used a couple more minutes to polish out those 2000 grit scratches. Now, if you're looking for an absolute perfect mirror polish, whether it's by the naked eye or up close, you're definitely going to want to get some way to view the edge through magnification, either through a very expensive camera setup like I have, or a $3 jeweler's loupe. I'll leave a link to these in the description in case you don't know what I'm talking about. But I highly recommend getting one so that you can actually see what you're doing on the sharpening stone, if, again, you're looking for an absolute perfect mirror polish. Now back to the sharpening. A very quick stropping on a 3 micron and 1 micron strop, and here's the results. I am extremely happy with every single one of these stones. These stones are designed to be very accurately graded and used in order. I would not recommend skipping grits here once you get to the 1000 grit. The 1000 grit will take out a lot of scratches, especially off of a profiling stone, a much coarser profiling stone. But once you get to 1000 grit, you're really going to want to purchase these in order. So 1000, 2000, then jump to the 5000. Don't skip that 2000 grit. You can, believe me, you can do anything that you want to do. But that middle grit really does help get out those 1000 grit scratches. The 5000 grit is definitely going to have a tough time removing those 1000 grit scratches. The 2000 grit, it really is a good stone. Honestly, if you're not looking for a fairly decent mirror polish, you can completely skip the 5000 grit stone, because that's going to be the first polishing stone that you're going to come across in this series. But again, you can go back to the 2000 grit and get insanely good edges, and I mean insanely good edges, right off of the 2000 grit. A lot of people commented in the previous video that the 2000 grit was their finishing stone for a very long time, and they're extremely pleased with it. So it's not just me saying this. All in all, for the price, all 3 of these stones can be bought for around $130. That's an insane price to me. Honestly, I would probably pay double that. Don't tell anybody, because these are going to be lifelong stones. They're very hard wearing. Again, you may even be passing these down to your kids one day if they take an interest in it. If you're just casually sharpening, any one of these stones is going to last you a lifetime of casual sharpening. There's no question. I mean, I've sharpened at least, at this point, maybe 60 or 70 knives on the 1000 grit, and I really don't notice any dishing or wearing whatsoever. Maybe if we put it on the surface plate, put some feeler gauges under there, we might be able to detect some wear. But for freehand sharpening, it's still plenty good enough to go probably another 70 knives without having to worry about it. So again, we're talking about very hard wearing stones, and they cut very well. As a parent, since we are using the S110V, no problems there. There you have it. Hopefully you got something from this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.